Welcome, everybody. Welcome to. Wow. There you go. Welcome to some laughter. I love this. And welcome to Simon on the split screen. Today I'm with a friend, and a friend because I tell you why he's a friend. He's only a friend because I had the opportunity to spend a beautiful hour or so conversation with him 2 years ago. And then just stay in touch a little bit online, but more importantly, read some of his beautiful offerings to the world. And it is today I'm with Brian. Welcome, Brian. Just say hi because you're here anyway. Say hello.
Hi.
So this is a new beginning for me. And Brian, you are a virgin to Simon on the Sofa as the split screen conversation of all split screen conversations.
I am a Simon on the Sofa split screen virgin. That is true. So far, it feels so good.
Yeah, it feels so good. And thank you for trying this new software out with me, because anything could happen right now, right? But I tell you, as you know, you may recall, I'm sure you will recall our conversation, and more importantly, whether or not we remember anything that we shared, because we know we had a lot of fun, is the main things. We show up transparently, we share the next 45 minutes together. And what I'm really inviting people, Brian, in these recent conversations, as I've been recording conversations now for over 6 years with hundreds of people, is my exploration as I move out of 2016 and into 2017 is really just the essence of transparency, what that really means, transparent communication, sovereignty, living in this present moment, being really alert, really tapping into what you have been sharing for many years around the power of this moment, out of those survival emotions and into the magnificence of who we are as gods in the flesh. That's really what's exciting me at the moment. And but as I always say, I'd love to, maybe you could do a little check-in for the viewers. Maybe they've never heard of you before. Maybe not everyone in the community's watched our last conversation. So it'd be lovely just to maybe check in how you're feeling today, what's alive in you, and what maybe your intention of this call is as we have a little dance together.
Well, I'm right there with you. I feel like the sense of transparency and authenticity and the intimacy that creates with the moment, first and foremost, with this moment, first and foremost, is such a rich, passionate exploration of self-discovery within oneself, and then within a group, with a collective, with a field of human beings, to open to this potential unified field of feeling the sense of what we often call oneness together, which is the truth of who we are, but then to realize it and have it embodied in this world of duality. How the non-duality manifests world of duality is really rich and beautiful, and there's a sense of creativity that I feel that when we resonate together, there's a sense of just this creative flow that we're in, and it's fun and it's playful and it's just this beautiful energy that's flowing through, and we're not trying to like think hard or figure out what we're going to say next, or the struggle to like how do we make this good, or there's just this relaxed flow,
Right.
This flow state,
Right,
that we get together. That's so rich and such a gift to invite others to discover for themselves and share together. So that's definitely a big part of the intention. And then just really briefly, my story, and as we'll go further today, I think we'll discover that the story of who we are is not really who we are. It's just the one external perception of who we are. But I have 2 books, The Big Glow and The Wild and Now, that I've written, working on the 3rd book, and also a life coach and spiritual teacher based in Asheville, North Carolina, a beautiful community where I actually am here today, and travel the world like you do, sharing the good news and the message with folks.
Sharing the good news. Yeah, and maybe that's nice, actually. I like that you mention that now, but you've been doing a little retreat as well, haven't you, which is called The Big Glow. And
Yes.
And again, maybe it's nice just sometimes just to, just again, for people listening, just a little dive into a little story, maybe a minute or so into, what was the initial thing that pulled you onto this, let's say, this greater state of awareness in terms of, being more alert, more aware, more into that space that you're now living and walking and breathing?
Right. Well, two things come to my mind. One is that the catalyst for the spiritual journey was what it is for most people that I've encountered, which is suffering. You know, so I like to make that point for people that are in a lot of suffering right now, or they feel really lost right now, is that's the catalyst. You know, what you think is like this horrible thing that shouldn't be happening to you, if you just accept it, embrace it, it's the gateway to discovering who you really are, and it's there for your benefit, and ultimately something to be grateful for. So in my case, I had what it was called chronic fatigue syndrome, and it lasted for years, and it was really an opening for me to be like, okay, well, nothing's going the way I thought it was supposed to go in this life right now. So what is this life really? Who am I really? You know, why am I really here? These deepest questions, you know, is there a way to transcend suffering? What is suffering? Where does meaning come from, and purpose and inspiration? And that was in my, actually that was when I was 20. And that started really devoted my life to that and gave myself to that quest, that inquiry. And then in regards to the retreats,
One minute. I've been attacked by a killer light. Maybe you comment that there. No, because then it just creates this random horror light that you just create right mid-conversation of Brian speaking about his stuff. What are you doing? I appreciate you trying to help. My beautiful, divine goddess, beautiful, beloved, is just trying to give me more light, Brian. Sorry about that. And she's just put this light
those
on me.
beautiful, divine goddesses, they're always trying to give us more light.
Always trying to give us more light.
So appreciative.
Sometimes in the wrong places. Let's go.
Anyway, the retreats. So there was this sense of feeling, again, what so many people feel, which is alone. You know, the sense of I want to connect with other people that are on this path also, that are like-hearted, that are asking these same kind of questions, that are exploring these same kind of things. Right. So when I very first had the idea of the retreats, which was like over 10 years ago now, it was really for me at first. You know, like I wanted to feel connected to other people and feel the sense of community with other people, and discovered that so many other people are feeling that sense of isolation and feeling like they don't have other people to talk to. And the internet's evolved since then, so I think it's better now. It's easier to find connections with people, but there's still something so valuable about coming together in person.
Yes.
Together and sharing the space together, that resonant feel together. I know you lead retreats as well.
Yeah.
And you have a similar passion for bringing people together.
Yeah, and I think that's something actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because it seems to be a great topic at the moment. And I remember a wonderful article or call out that you put out on one of your newsletters, and I think that's actually quite a nice thing to bring up in this conversation, because it was something that really stuck out. I don't get to read everything that you send through, but when things pop up and you see it and it comes at the right time, you know, from different messengers. And it was just this thing where you were saying, right, because you know you have that experience, you have that connection, you create those spaces, as I do, where you bring people together, and there's nothing more beautiful than that in-person connection. And you put that post out saying, that article saying, look, you know, Facebook isn't it, social media isn't it, it's okay, it's a tool for maybe, you know, us interacting, sharing some positive vibrations and so on. Let's not put it down, but it's like you were saying, who's out there that really wants to connect? And like on a real level. So I maybe want to just talk about like what was the emotion driving you? Because when I read it, I really felt the power through the words of like, you were like, come on, you know, what's going on out there?
Come on, people now, smile on your brother. So I think there is this real call to come together. So like the spiritual journey, when usually when it's articulated, or the spiritual traditions we have, it's a solo spiritual journey, you know. It's like my enlightenment, my salvation, my awakening, my whatever. And I was just really feel into that, and like, well, that's on some level, it's so fascinating, because that's still ego, you know. It's like I'm this separate entity, and I want this for myself, and if I get it for myself, I'm going to increase or better the story of myself, you know. But the whole thing is an illusion when you really start to see who you really are, you know. So recognizing and realizing that, and it's something that's beyond just this separate sense of a self, and coming together with other people who are feeling that sense too, and exploring and experimenting and discovering together, you know, is what it's all about right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I find I find that when at the moment, what happens for me anyway, and I'd love to hear what you say on this, but what happens for me when we're in those spaces together with groups of people, we get the opportunity when we've all made that agreement, we've made that sort of commitment, that collective mind to be in the space together. We get the opportunity to uncover the dark spots and some of those hidden spots of our own, because we get the mirror, and we get the mirror in all areas. You know, we get to put all this sort of concepts, theories, and ideas into practice in the arena. And I feel that that's really what I still buzz off and still enjoy so much, because it's like, okay, we talk about, you know, we might share a post or an article that resonates with us and we feel great about that, but it's like it's with other people in communion where we get to really see ourselves, or at least feel, you know, how conscious are we, how loving are we, how much can we listen really, you know, are we willing to hold space for somebody else, or are we, like you just said, only concerned about our own journey, our own path, our own enlightenment, our own, you know, salvation, as the word you use. So yeah, that feels really well, that's what I noticed so much, is that when on retreats as well, I can't remember how long is your one that you do with the big glow, 7 days as well?
Different ones. This one I just did this past weekend was 3 days, but there's different lengths.
So you find that the dynamics, like over a longer period, like 3 days, of course, it has a certain dynamics, in 7 days and 10 days, and you really start to, you know, see the wave of how the dynamics of people interact, and how some people, you know, take a bit longer to come out and share. Some people are not so ready to communicate, reveal themselves, and everyone's sort of, and when you're in that space with them, you can start to really go, okay, well, just certain tools or certain ways of being don't work for everyone as well, right? We're sort of coming together in this unique way of accepting diversity and consciously communicating. But, you know, some people are not ready for like long bouts of eye contact and think it's weird, but then after a while they can sink into it, and so on and so forth. So I don't know what comes up for you around that, but that's why it's so rich for me getting together with groups of people.
Yeah, and because you have all these different people, all these different expressions of the divine, right? There are all these different expressions of yourself, right? All these aspects of yourself. So that's what's really rich, is if you find yourself, someone is a trigger for you, or someone is, whatever it is, it's like such a rich opportunity to love and embrace that aspect of yourself.
Right.
You know, that's what's so amazing about group dynamics. And when you come to love all these aspects of yourself, then it's natural to love everyone. Yes. Right? Because everyone's just these reflections of yourself. So that's what's amazing about the community there.
Yeah, I love that. And you said something earlier, and I'd love you to talk about that a bit more. And I know you do speak about this sometimes, but I know you've been going and doing talks. I know you're a musician, and you know you're just embodying the, you know, let's call it the more. I don't like to say necessarily the more beautiful world anymore, because I think you and I both know that the beautiful world is here right now. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree on that? You with me on that? I love Charles Eisenstein's book, The More Beautiful World, and I love the meme of the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. But there is this sense that sometimes that's like the more beautiful world we know is out there, whereas actually we know that right now, when you're in the wonder, I listened to a talk of you recently at the Bagua Center or whatever, and you was on there talking to a group of people, and it's like the wonder, the awe, the beauty, the reverence, the juice, the love. Remember we called our last talk the bathtub of love, and you were talking about bubbles of love and joy. And I always remember that the passion and the innocence you had flowing through you. But it's here, right? And it's here to be received and experienced right now. And I feel that seems to be a message. But then at the moment, and I want you to maybe talk about this, is I'm meeting a lot of people at the moment that are super confused, super uncertain, in the life between stories, in between like what's happening, what's crumbling, what's not. And it's really difficult for certain layers of awareness to see that, right? To even notice that, you know, there's magic happening all around them.
Yeah, great question. So a few things. One is, you mentioned Charles Eisenstein. He actually lives a few blocks from here.
Yes.
Carolina. How awesome is that?
It's super awesome. Wow.
Yeah. So I think it is, people are really going through a lot right now. I think it's important for us to acknowledge that people are free, especially in this country right now, with things that are happening. People are really freaked out. They're scared. They're confused. They're lost. They're terrified. Yeah. They're concerned. They're whatever. You know. Yeah. They're not. There's a sense of anxiety, and I think it's important to acknowledge that, and not kind of gloss over it and just say, oh, everything's great. And then people feel like you're not seeing me, you know, and you're not hearing me. And I am hearing people, and I am seeing people, and I feel what's happening and what people are feeling. And I have a lot of compassion, you know. And then what's been interesting and what this last retreat was a lot about was emotion and embracing emotion, and not running from it, not trying to manipulate it, not trying to change it, not trying to make it something different, but really fully being with whatever's there. You know, if it's pleasure, if it's pain, if it's happiness, if it's sadness, if it's the whole range in between. And what you discover is if you can really be with what is, like an unconditional relationship with the moment, just fully being whatever is, not trying to change it, not trying to make it something different, not trying to do anything to it, just fully embracing it with like a wide open, like you're the spaciousness, right? The example we use sometimes is you're the infinite blue sky, and you're just allowing the clouds to just, you know, just appear and disappear, just to kind of move through you. Then there is a transcendent quality that's there, right? So that's the thing that's difficult to realize at first. People go, well, I don't want to feel sadness. I want to feel happiness. I don't want to feel pain. I want to feel pleasure. But when you're in that space, that's the ego trying to control, and you're not free, you know? But if you're just free to experience whatever's here, then you can be with somebody's pain. You can be with somebody's sadness. You can be with somebody's anger. You can be with somebody, whatever is there. You can be with your own sadness, your own pain. And there's a sense of freedom that transcends the particular experience of the moment. There's a sense of depth of inner peace that transcends the particular experience of the moment. And there's a sense of love, real love, because now you're just loving what is, you know, whatever it is. And there's a sense of empowerment because now you're not looking to the outside, somewhere outside to feel you. You realize that you are it.
Yeah.
It is you.
Yeah. And so that's like really, that's emotional intelligence. Right?
Yeah.
That's emotional intelligence, because what I'm hearing is that when we don't judge what we're feeling as right or wrong, and as you just said, we're trying to run from one emotion to another. Like, I don't want to feel anger. I shouldn't feel anger. I want to feel happiness. Or why am I feeling, you know, all the things you just beautifully described. When we're actually there and we don't judge it right and wrong, it dissolves into what you just said, right? It dissolves.
Moves.
Yeah, it moves. And it's so moment to moment, isn't it? It's so moment to moment. Like, for example, I do this great exercise, which is just, I did it with Dara, my partner in Shine, who's just given me loads of light a moment ago. We were doing this thing recently, which is just, you know, saying like, what's here now? Me and you could even do it, right? So
that's what we do. Yeah, we did at the retreat.
Right. Yeah. So it's like literally just a beautiful exercise, which you know so well. It's like, what's here now? And as I say, what's here now, and we do it, and maybe just for the viewers, we just do a couple of rounds. Are you happy to do that?
Okay.
Yeah. Are you happy to do that? Just so they can get an example, because sometimes it's better just to give them an example. So let me just take a breath. Okay. So what's here now?
So I'm just giving you guys a little bit of a sense of this. So the way this works, and you can tell me if it's the same for you, we say only what's alive in the moment.
Yeah, just one word.
So I don't say like, well, last week I was really upset because of whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So it's only what's alive here.
Yeah. And
it would essentially be emotion or physical sensation.
Boom. And normally, Brian, I just do one word. Do you do like one word or one sentence?
We do more, but I'm happy to do one word.
Yeah, we do one word just for now, just in terms of what we have. Yeah. Okay. So you can begin now. You ask me.
How do you phrase the question again?
So I'm just going to say, I'm going to say what's here now to you. What's here now? And then you just tell me one word, one sentence if you want, and then you say to me, what's here now?
Happiness.
Nice.
What's here now?
Curiosity. What's here now?
Let's keep vulnerability. What's here now?
Uncertainty. What's here now?
Excitement. What's here now?
Vulnerability. What's here now?
Fun. What's here now?
Safety. What's here now?
Connection. What's here now?
Beauty. What's here now?
Love. You know what you do? Is like when you become tuned. So I knew exactly when you knew that it was time to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Like when you're tuned in, you just know when it's time to begin, time to end, time to move.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm so excited about as we start to synchronize from this field of presence. We move as one, and the intelligence is, exponentially more powerful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and what's yeah, thank you, by the way, just to drop it in spontaneously on that. I appreciate it. And the reason why I feel that's such a beautiful, simple exercise for the viewers as well watching is because what you just said, really. It's just that's what stimulated it, because you're saying that whatever's there, right, is allowed.
Yep.
You don't have to fix me. I have to fix me. If I'm feeling anxiety or anger, like if frustration comes up and insecurity, you can just be there, even just holding that space to allow me that, right?
Yep.
And
I think there's two interesting reflections for me. One is for the viewers to notice how what we were feeling evolved based on what came before it. So there's a feedback loop, there's a connection loop, and which is moving and it's alive and it's dynamic, and you keep paying attention. Like someone at the retreat this past weekend was saying, well, I did this like 2 or 3 times, and it was just like suffering and pain and etc. And then I noticed something different started to emerge underneath that, But I thought I just keep giving the same answer, but I noticed that it started changing. Right. So you just pay attention to the moment, and you notice, like, what you're feeling is always moving and changing. And it's so beautiful to notice that, because people think, oh, I've been suffering for 3 years straight. No, you haven't. Just pay attention. It's like there's so much moving every moment. It's just a story you have.
Yeah, totally.
And, and the other thing that really important, I think, is that when we do this, there's no response, right? So we're used to saying, like, I feel sad. Oh, I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? How can I make it? And people, of course, they're well-meaning, but there can be the feeling of like you shouldn't be feeling what you're feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. And so just to have the space where like I can just say what I'm feeling, and there's not going to be any response to it.
Yeah.
Just presence. Is really transformative and healing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, because that really is what sharing circles and for circle work is about for me as well, in the sense of not needing to fix and give advice. And I feel sometimes definitely in the self-development world and just whatever personal transformation and spiritual realms is often we fall into that essence that we're trying to fix others and fix people and so on, where ultimately the individual has the capacity only to do that. If we can create what you just said, a safe space, a safe environment for that genuine connection, then that sort of personal healing or transformation takes place of its own accord, doesn't it? Or sometimes I say, who's doing this? Like in a circle, I don't know if you might have this sometimes. I'm like, wow, look what just happened. And you're like, who, what did that? Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yep. When there's that sense of effortlessness, that's where the real magic comes in.
Flows through. So tell me, I'm curious. As you notice, I had some curiosity, but I'm curious because you've been doing this. I say doing this, whatever that means, but being as you've been being more open, being more loving, being more plugged in. Having your own challenges and just dancing this merry-go-round in the mystery that's unfolding. But there is a knowing in you, and there's a sense that like this knowing that there's something beyond the stories and beyond who we think we are and so on. And I'd love you just to touch on it. I know sometimes words don't do that necessarily much justice, but for people listening, when they hear things like, "Oh yeah, being who who I'm not, or being more than what I think I am," that can sometimes confuse people because they're like, "Well, this is who I am. I'm Simon, and I'm a human being, aren't I? And this is my job, and I'm watching you guys on there. What do you mean? Who am I? You know?" So
Right.
I don't know if that's not alive in you fully, and there's something else wants to come through, then just merge them.
Well, let's go into it together. We can share it together with folks. So
Lovely.
yeah, this question of like, who am I, right? So yeah, the first thing is like, well, this is how old I am. This is where I was born. This is who my wife is, or this is my kids. This is my job, and all that is valid on what we call like the relative level, you know. But who are you really? And the way we like to go into that question is, what is it that's changing? So if something's changing, then it's not who you really are, right? It's temporary. It's a temporary manifestation of yourself. So then we look at, what is it that's changing? Well, my thoughts are changing. My ideas about myself are changing. My emotions, as we just showed, are changing. My physical body is changing. The environment around me is changing. My relationships are changing. My family's changing. So then you start to get to space of like, wow, like, everything is changing, right? Everything is changing, and what we do is we look for security. We look for some sense of something steady in the world of form, which is always changing, and that creates this tremendous sense of anxiety, and suffering and fear, because on a deeper level, we know that we can't find that sense of safety and security in a world that's always changing. So who are you really? Then we start to look for that which is unchanging, right? Who are you really? That which is unchanging. This is where the word like spirit is pointing at. Like you say, it's not whatever the image you have of spirit is not it, but there's a sense of no-thingness, the essence of who you are, which is unchanging, and recognizing that and realizing who you really are, which transcends thoughts, which transcends ideas, which transcends concepts. Then there's this liberation, this freedom, this authenticity, and the sense of love and peace and empowerment.
Right.
So it's like recognizing and realizing that.
Because
and what's
detached from it. No, carry on. Good.
When you start to look at all these spiritual traditions, they're actually all saying the same thing. Right. It seems like complicated at first, but it's actually not. It's a universal truth that goes throughout all the different cultures, the times, the places, and then what's exciting, the more we delve into this sense of who we are really, is what can we, the more beautiful world, what can we create in this world from this space of realizing who we really are. Right. Yeah. Express it in the world.
Yeah, that's lovely, and I want to jump in there. I know that the illusionary time keeps ticking, but I want to jump in there and say, so in that essence of what you're just saying, there's a sense of surrendering, or this is what's coming up for me, just in this moment. So there's a sense of surrendering, and there's a sense of letting go, detaching from the identities that we've created based on everything you said at the beginning of your sharing. So within that, we then get to that space, that more, let's say, that state of no-thingness, that state of intelligence, the field of creation, right? This field of, that's so-called the field. Rumi spoke of the field, the place beyond right and wrong. I'll meet you there, the field. Quantum physics are talking about it as the quantum field. And many others have spoken about this sort of sense of source and even the zone, isn't it? It's been called the zone and different places, right? This sense of where everything else dissolves. And even when we're in that pure state of creativity, everything else seems to stop, doesn't it? Time, the illusionary of time and all this other stuff. And we're just in that creative space. So maybe what would be nice just to, because again, I'm curious if maybe some people out there that maybe, that's a bit too far out for them for whatever reason. It would be lovely when this started happening for you, when your identity started dissolving, when you started to go into this, I don't know where you were in your life, at what stage, and did you struggle in dissolving to some of this, mind-made self? What happened for you?
Well, yeah, I think there's generally like there's a sense of what's called awakening often, spiritual awakening. You awaken to who you really are, and it's this amazing liberation, this amazing realization. And then for most everybody, there's an integration phase, right? You're integrating. How do you become, you realize yourself as a spiritual being, but then how do you be a human being? That's the tricky part. How do you be a human being as a spiritual being? How do you be a man as a human being as a spiritual being, right? And so I feel like I kind of look at it like the kind of linear world and the non-linear world. So the non-linear world is like, this is who we really are. It's a timeless essence of who we are, and there's no forward or backwards. There's no time or space, and we're just in this absolute self. And then in the world of time, the linear world, the relative self, I'm continually learning and growing and discovering things. And that's a beautiful process as well. So there's like this paradox of those two things happening at the same time. There's this absolute self that doesn't need to know anything or understand anything, right? And then there's the relative self, the personality, which continues to evolve in consciousness.
Right. Yeah. So do you feel like we're moving at the moment to like almost emerging? I had this same conversation, not the same, of course, a similar conversation recently, and I said, what seems to be falling away is this sense of the human being. And what I mean by that, and just to give some clarity, is we always say, like, this sense of like, oh, we're a human being, and then there seems to be in the human being, there seems to be this separate self, like you just described. You've got this like, non-linear self, this spiritual, what people might call the spiritual self, or this self beyond form. And then we try to sort of bring it and ground it into this sort of human experience where, there's suffering and there's pain and there's, certain different frequencies that we can be a part of and interact with, etc., etc. And I was saying, like, it feels more and more that we're merging into, this dissolving of this such sort of separate, solid, and maybe what we've called the human being. It's like, I know there's that saying, isn't there? We're spiritual beings having a human experience, but again, it sort of seems to bring in some sort of, for me anyway, this is just a sort of inquiry I'm pondering, and of course it will go nowhere, but it's worth pondering. Right? Is that, this sense that there is, we have to lose some of the words, I'm realizing more and more, but let's lose this idea that there is a human being, and actually we are just these phenomenal, multi-dimensional geniuses, these interstellar, creative gods, right? That are just allowing in pure raw intelligence to be transmitted through us into our electromagnetic field, and we are just boundless, and there is no death, and there is just this sense of like you said, what do I want to create and bring forth through me, or more importantly, what do I want to get out of the way of to allow through me, and then just ride on that buzz, right? And it's like that for me, sort of, as minute I even say that, all my cells seem to be pulsating, right? There's a jig that comes with that. Yeah. It's like, the let go jig, whatever you want to call it. But, that's, again, that's alive in me. And of course, I know to some people, they think like, Si, you've taken too much, you've drunken too much, you and Brian are off your rocker, right? But what comes up for you is I'm sort of saying this because it feels like that really is something that's communicating through us.
Yeah, you made me think of the last thing you said. Made me think of there's this guy. Actually, the Tao. Taoism, yes. The Tao. This is also a term for that. So there's a Tao. Lao Tzu is the most known. He wrote the Tao Te Ching. There's another guy called Chuang Tzu who has this book that I love, and it's really playful and fun and points to these truths. So this guy's writing the foreword for Chuang Tzu, and he says, Chuang Tzu, is he crazy, or are you just not crazy enough?
That's right, yeah.
That's right.
That is it. That's perfect. I should listen, I might put that. That might be one of my strap lines.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? And am I crazy, or are you just not crazy enough? I might steal that and start using it, because that's what it feels. Sometimes I go on one of my little like energetic bursts, as I just did, and then I look at the people looking at me, and it just looks like they've seen like rabbit in the headlights. Like, who is this man before me? But still, I'm enjoying something that me and Dara have been talking about, is that like there's this aliveness from that place and play. You used the word a moment ago, playfulness, Brian.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about that, like this sense of I know we've heard of the inner child and we've heard of like, you know, allowing in that there's that cosmic laugh and that cosmic joke when we start to tap into these sort of spaces where we realize that we are, you know, half of what we've been attached to and identified with and thinking about is just actually a joke. But, you know, do you want to just talk a little bit about maybe lightness and aliveness and playfulness and how that sort of, how you bring that into your life?
Well, you pointed to it really well. I feel like, you know, your inspiration that just came through you, you know, when you recognize and realize the sense of who you really are, and you're not this what I call the ego, this illusionary sense of a separate self, then yeah, you can't die, you can't be born, right? There's the play of birth and death, there's the play of relating, there's the play of form, there's the play of life, and then you can really recognize it as play, you know, and it's fun, and you can have the whole. And I think an important point that people don't necessarily get is the play includes the full range of emotion. Otherwise, it's like when you go to see a great movie, you know, and you're like, oh, what an amazing movie. I felt like I cried, I laughed, there was adventure, there was drama, there was romance, they broke up, they got back together, you know, this is a whole thing. Like, wow, that was amazing. I felt so much, you know?
Yeah.
And our lives can be like that too.
Right.
You know, it's not like you have to feel just this kind of thing. You're able to have the full range of the human experience. And now there's a sense of playfulness and fun if you recognize who you really are, right? But if you think yourself as the ego, then it's not fun. Right. You know, it's not fun at all. That's when you're suffering.
Yeah, because you're caught. Yeah, because you're then caught in those survival emotions, which are keeping you in a lower frequency, which are not allowing the resonance to come into that higher states of awareness. And it's in those higher states of awareness that you can look back and go, oh wow, this is all part of the adventure. This is all part of the play, as you just said. And what was coming up as you was talking is, again, maybe compassionately we should talk about this just for this sort of last part of the conversation is that it doesn't seem playful for people at Standing Rock. It doesn't seem playful for people at you know, that are looking at the politics. It doesn't seem playful for the person that's just been, you know, shot because they're in that sort of crime ring, or the diamonds are still being mined, or, you know, it doesn't seem playful for the person that's just got cancer and told that they've only got 3 months to live. You know, it's like, for them, it's like, no, this is real. They're so deep in the unawareness and the survival emotions that the only thing real for them is rigidity, pain, conflict, violence, suffering, anxiety, like you said at the beginning of the conversation. And that's real for them. And one thing that came up for me the other day, I was listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've come across some of his stuff, and he said something beautiful. And he said, when you're in those low frequencies, when you're in those survival emotions, it's really difficult. And I call that the pain body, right? When you're in that state, maybe you call it the ego, etc. When you're in that state, it's hard to have an elevated awareness and emotion, to see beyond the darkness and the depths of that sort of sludge and density. So I'll leave you with that. But like, so it's like for those out there, like they can't see that playfulness. They can't think like, oh yeah, well, this is fine. I'm just in the pain body. I just dance a little bit.
Do the pain body jig. Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. I'm really glad you're bringing this up, and I'd love to hear your feeling on this too. But speaking for myself, in this journey of awakening that I've been through, I feel way more compassionate now than I ever have, you know. And I feel it's more and more so, and it's because I don't have to run from any particular emotion. I don't have to like try to avoid or be afraid or do anything. You know, so I feel like that allows me to really be with somebody that's going through something, and just be present with them. And that presence brings a healing, transformative. That's what brings the healing and transformation.
Yes.
You know, presence is really love. When we love someone, it's like we're present with them. We really see them. We really hear them. We're really available for them.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that, so the essence is that as we have more compassion. That's what you're saying, yeah? So even in that sense of what, what people are going through, yeah.
Do you feel like you have more compassion than you did, you know, in an earlier stage of your life?
Yes, yeah, immensely, yeah. More empathy. just so much more empathy. And you know, and at times, sometimes I can see now more clearer than ever that if you want to have an impact on what's really happening in the world from a state of the suffering, whether it be the politics, Standing Rock, or any other disaster that's happening in the world, then if you go in and heal what you need to heal based on that, you will contribute more than protesting, more than going down and you know, firing a gun and an arm and so on. You're like, I feel that I'm doing this, Brian. I get out of bed every day and I feel that I'm doing my work and continue to do my work, sharing this conversation with you and making this happen for one reason and one reason only, because I see the amount of suffering that's going on.
Me too,
And I want to contribute to I said in 2007 that I want to be a healing balm against the disease that is ignorance and unconsciousness and violence and suffering and child abuse and all this other stuff. How can I really have an impact on that? And at first it was sort of, I got to go out there, I got to save the world, I got to take over the world, I got to do all this on my own. Me and you know, I got to get Chewbacca in a group and we got to go all guns blazing. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, there's a much easier way, and a much more powerful way, and I can actually heal it within. And that was really a big moment for me, because then I realized that, like you just beautifully described, however I am being, whether I'm down at the post office or whether I'm on this call with you or whether I'm with my loved one or I'm talking to my mum or whatever, I'm actually being that healing balm.
Yeah, and I think a really important question that was a big shift for me. You know, I think a lot of times you start in this journey, you see what is perceived as injustice and all these different things, and you're against the you know, the Illuminati or the man or the system or the whoever, you know, and then there's certain things like, you know, for me, I realized that in being against something, and this is kind of a law of attraction principle, I realized I was actually contributing to it.
Exactly.
Being against it, what we resist persists.
Right.
It's made stronger. So then I had this shift in my inquiry, which has been my inquiry to this day, and instead of focusing on what I'm against, what am I for?
Right.
You know, and what do I want to create?
Right.
And let's put our energy there, you know, and create that together.
Yeah. And I know simplicity is divinity, but that's for me, really that's the answer to some of the biggest questions that we do come up against. That what is a beautiful saying that I'm using at the moment, which I found recently, which I love so much, is the only thing missing from any situation is what we're not giving.
Nice.
And I really love that. You know, and whatever, you know, the only thing missing from any situation is what we are not giving. And I feel that the retreats that I do are like the majority of them are they're gifts. So we all come together, we share the cost share, and then we do gift, because I'm obviously again from the Charles Eisenstein and Polly Higgins and a few other beautiful people out there working within the gift economy and using the gift as a way of really bringing sacred exchange back together, and also inviting people to tap into their own talents and what they really do have of value beyond just money in the bank. There's this sense of, there's a beautiful wave I feel going across the planet right now, which is really plugging us into our potential on all levels. So like you said, rather than look at something and be against it, look at how we can literally contribute the new, right? Contribute the new systems, the new ways of being, and so on. And there's another little thing that came up for me a few years back, which was literally when the people, I guess maybe people have the power, still sounds a bit sort of dominating and power hungry, but the people have the power when they come together and just say no, right? The power of no. Like all of a sudden this company, this organization, this is happening. Well, okay, we don't have to acquiesce to that. We can just say no. So your no is actually by far more powerful than any sort of conflict.
Yeah, and what we're talking about, we're pointing to, it puts us in this creative energy. You know, it puts us in the energy of the life artist, and it puts us in what we really are. We are creators, you know, and we've lost, you know, speaking of the general human condition, we've lost our sense of that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, what do we want to create?
Yeah.
And let's create it.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, I know you said 45 minutes, we're on 47 minutes, so I'm going to say one thing to you, but you have a choice always. So one is, how would you like to end this conversation, meaning that you can close it in any way you like, and you might want to add something, you might want to say something to the people, or you could share with with the viewers what you're creating in sense of not just your retreats, what you just shared, but like what's your vision that you're putting out there as a grand creator of reality? But you choose.
Oh, wow. I would like to express great gratitude for you and I and our friendship and our connection and what we are creating together, the resonant field we create together between us and how it emanates out and how people feel so inspired by it. I know both of us got a lot of feedback and positive response from our last dance together.
Yes.
And so I feel really grateful, feel really appreciative. I feel excited about the potential of co-creation for the two of us to come, and I feel excited about the co-creation just generally of the community, the global community that we're a part of and what we can create together. It really does feel like a very dark time, on an outer level, on a surface level. But there is something else that's happening, that's coming out of it. And I'm finding people asking questions that we've never asked before and really delving deep together in a way we never have before. So even though it's a time that feels dark and scary, there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of opportunity here for us to become empowered and stop looking for external sources to solve our problems. So I'd like to ask you the same question, Simon.
Firing it back to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, whenever gratitude's felt, authentic gratitude, it's that you can't do anything but want to give, because when we receive, we want to give. So yeah, vice versa. My gratitude for you and I also like what I feel in this conversation, just to mirror back to you firstly, is I feel a real nice, grounded, calm peacefulness in you. Yeah. It feels really nice. Nice is not a nice word. We're stopping saying nice. I feel appreciation for your calmness and your groundedness. Yeah, that's nicer. Man, I can't. We're doing this thing at the moment where we're trying to really communicate our needs and our feelings. And I've noticed how much I'm saying nice. And nice is not even a feeling. So I feel appreciation for you and your presence. I also feel appreciation for what you've given to the world and what you continue to give, because I too have noticed that and what people receive from your presence and from what you bring to the world. And my vision is really like you again, but like this, the potential and the possibility and what is actually really alive right now when we rewire those old programs, that old self, and we take responsibility. This big thing about so much of our communication has been about denial of responsibility. And I feel that there's just such a sense of like, we're in this together and that we can take responsibility for what we're co-creating and how we come together in community, how we come together. And like you said as well, the global community. And that really just fires me up, Brian. That's like day to day, I'm just plugging into that and meeting people and talking to people and seeing how they're coming alive. And this year we always name our year, we give it a name. Like, so 2017 we've already named as aliveness and lightness, meaning really who's alive out there, like, who's come alive and really, and not just from a sort of place of silliness and so on, but like a real aliveness of like the gift of being here at this time. And that lightness, that the real joy and laughter and the essence of that energy coming into the field. That's what I really want to invite people on this in 2017. So that's
fantastic. Beautiful.
Wonderful. Okay, well, listen, I know you have to go, so thank you so much. Underneath this video, for all the viewers, you will see Brian's website. Please head over there, look at his offerings, check out his newsletter. That's part of what I'm subscribed to. He puts out some beautiful content, and also you can, if you're in the area, or what about if you're in the area, just travel over, fly, jump on a plane. We're all close now. We've got planes to travel everywhere, and go and meet this beautiful man, and maybe join one of his retreats. And Brian, let's speak again. Even though time is an illusion, let's maybe not leave it 2 years. Let's speak sooner than that.
It even becomes like a monthly thing or something. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it would be nice. It'd be nice to use maybe a more regular check-in. Yeah, like even if it's every 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it can't
absolutely.
be a month, because I know you're busy and I'm off doing things, and sometimes 6 weeks flies by, but we could do something like even a shorter check-in, couldn't it?
Yeah,
We,
the viewers will let us know. They'll let us know what they want.
yeah, yeah.
And,
Okay, there you go. So this is a call out. If you like what me and Brian do and share and how we come together and dance, would you like to see something a little shorter, more regular sound bite from us both? If you do, tell us, and then we will talk about it and make it happen.
beautiful.
Take care, Brian. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below this video or contact either myself or Brian in the ways that you know how. Everyone knows how to connect to us now. So take care. Thank you so much.